The film begins in Korea, where a massive earthquake is currently occurring, causing the destruction of literally everything in the country except for one building that is still standing. We enter this building and see Song, one of the residents. Today, he is surprised that the entire country is destroyed except for the building he lives in. So, he goes fishing. He goes down to see what's going on. He finds the building residents gathered, discussing what exactly to do. Of course, there are those who are afraid that the building might collapse like the others, and there are those who suggest increasing security and safety measures and so on. But this is besides the fact that the building has become very crowded because many residents from the neighboring buildings, after theirs were demolished, came here. Anyway, Song doesn't care about all that. He just grabs some food supplies and goes up to his wife, Myung, to tell her everything that happened today. They start calculating the supplies they have to see if it will be enough for the day. That same day at night, a woman came to Song Young's house. This woman had a small child with her and introduced herself. She's from the residents of one of the nearby buildings and came to check on this building. She asked them to let her in. She asked to stay with them for a while because she and her child were cold, and the woman and her child touched the hearts of two people, so they let them into the house. The next day, he goes for a walk around the building, which has literally become as crowded as a maggot, to the extent that Song finds a person sitting on the stairs selling food he had in exchange for water or batteries. And Song finds food that Myung likes, so he buys from him. He then leaves the house and takes from the room so they can eat alone. But he said they're absolutely away from the woman and her son living with them. But the problem is that the woman and her son come to them and they have to share that food with them. Then he goes down with the building to check for any suitable pots. But the lesson here is that while they are wandering around the building, they suddenly find a resident of the building arguing with strangers who came to the building. These strangers stab the man in his abdomen, and on top of that, they set his apartment on fire, causing a very large blaze that could literally make the whole building collapse, and everyone is afraid to put it out. Only one resident of the building named Taj. He quickly starts taking action and encourages everyone to help, and they actually managed to extinguish the fire. As after the fire was extinguished, all the building's residents gathered, and Miss Kim, the head of the Homeowners Association, came to them. First, he thanked Taji for his great courage. Then she began to inform everyone that the situation is currently dangerous and that they need to deal with the strangers in the building and get them out. Since the situation is not safe, the residents of the building are divided between those who support the removal of the strangers and those who oppose it, because it is very cold outside and destroyed, and there's nothing alive out there. Literally, if people go out, it would be like sentencing them to death. Now, Kim asked Song what they should do. She specifically asked Song because he used to work in a government job and surely has a background in handling emergencies like this. At the moment, Song suggests to them that they need to appoint a leader temporarily so they can make the right decisions without any problems or fights occurring. Of course, everyone gets convinced by this and decides to appoint a leader for them because he is very brave. He can defend the rights of the building, so Tech is very happy with this position. The first thing Tech decides to do is to hold a referendum where all the residents of the building will vote. Based on that, they will decide whether to let the strangers leave from the building or not. Then everyone agrees and they actually conduct the referendum, and almost everyone votes for the gas to leave. Then Tak speaks privately with Sonia and suggests that Sonia join him and become the leader of the force that will defend the building against the poppers. He would become like an assistant, you know. So he agrees after thinking for just a few moments. The next day, they all decide to remove the strangers from the building, and they actually create a very clever plan. Initially, they make all the outsiders understand that they are holding a very important meeting outside the building to allocate the vacant apartments available in the building. Indeed, all the outsiders gather outside the building, and then Tak and everyone else come and block the door with iron. Tak starts talking to them and informs them that they can no longer live in the building. Of course, all the strangers are surprised and refuse to leave because that way they'll die from the cold. But that doesn't make a difference to Tak, and he keeps asking them to leave. But they still sneak in. In a moment, chaos spreads among everyone, and everyone starts fighting each other. One of the strangers attacks Bisunju and is about to kill him, but Tak comes and saves him. But Takedo insists on turning away strangers and drive them out of the building like a madman. He and all the residents finally manage to forcefully keep all the strangers away from the building. Afterwards, he loses focus amidst everyone and keeps chanting with Galan. He and everyone saying they would defend this building against anything. It's as if the building, my friend, has turned into their own private homeland where no one else is allowed in. And by the way, it's not just empty slogans. The building actually turns into something resembling a state, or to the point that they set rules and laws to live in the building. They even form a team from among them, including Tag and Song and other residents, who go out every day to look for food or supplies and so on for all the building's residents. And that's it. They keep going out every day searching but without any hope. Until one time, they reach a store that is still somewhat intact and hasn't been completely destroyed. They are happy and are about to go in and take everything. But before they do, the shop owner arrives, who turns out to still be alive, matches and confirms. One of the building's residents is named Hugh. And by the way, Hugh is a son of Mrs. Camilla. In summary, he threatens the store owner that he will kill him if he doesn't leave. At that time, Tak and everyone stall by talking with him and distracting him until someone comes from behind and hits him. Afterwards, they jump on him and keep hitting him until he's out of breath completely. But then they take all the supplies and everything in the store and head back to the building. Meanwhile, in the building, Song's wife was returning to her apartment but finds a child calling her from another place in the building. That child turns out to be Mong, the son of the woman who was staying with Song and Myung. The important thing is that the person who is supposed to be with the child Mong comes and takes him quickly before anyone sees him. Myung communicates with Mong through a kind of walkie-talkie she had given him. Mong tells her that he, his mother, and other children who are strangers are staying with the owner of this apartment, and he is taking care of them because he's a good person. Myung is happy and promises him that she will also help them. After a while, Song arrives with Tak and the other residents with lots of food for the building, and because they finally managed to bring a lot of food, they start celebrating. It becomes a celebration for everyone. He was securing the building with another resident. By coincidence, they see a girl coming to the building. They take the girl to Tak, and the girl tells them her name is Mon, and that she is a resident of the building because her mother used to have an apartment here a while ago. At that time, everyone reviews the records, and it turns out that the girl indeed lived in the building and in the apartment right next to Tak's. When Tak finds this out, he gets a bit nervous and asks the girl if she remembers him. But the girl is surprised and says she doesn't remember him at all. But no one cares about that, and they all go to celebrate. At first, Tak introduces everyone to Mon so they can welcome her. Then, Tak keeps singing and singing. While he is singing, he remembers memories from the past. We go back with him to those memories. We see that back then, when Tak was driving his car, we find out that his name wasn't Tak at all, but C. One day, he arrived at the building and went up to the apartment of a person named Taj. Taj lived with his very sick mother. The important thing is that C asked Taj to return his money. We understand from their conversation that the real Taj had started a real estate company and had convinced C that he would get him an apartment but swindled him out of the money. Now C is there to get it back. However, Attack al-Hakiki tells him that he doesn't owe him any money, so C gets angry and a fight breaks out between them, escalating to the point where C keeps hitting Tak al-Hakiki until he dies. At that moment, the real Taki's mother literally becomes paralyzed and can no longer speak. But not long after all that, the earthquake that destroyed the entire world happened. So he decided to live in the building, pretending to be Tak, who lived in the building here with his mother. And naturally, this caused Tak to become anxious when he learned she was living in the apartment next to him. Anyway, we return to the present time and see Tak keeps singing, celebrating with everyone, and the night ends. The next day was the distribution of supplies, so everyone gathered at the supply warehouse. Mrs. Kim was distributing them, and Myung, Martung's wife, was present on the occasion. It's important that one of the building's residents argues with Kim that she's giving Tak, Sang, and Ba, the building's leaders, more food than the regular people. Kim explains that these people deserve more because they literally go out and risk their lives to get it. The man gets angry and yells, realizing that they go out to steal this food from his friends and also kill his friends, just like they did with the store owner from whom they stole all the provisions. No, so the matter isn't really difficult. Mayong at that moment is shocked by all this, so when she returns home, she talks to Song and asks him if he caused anyone's death while getting the supplies. Song, saddened, tells her that he caused the owner's death. Young argues with him and asks him not to go out with them again so as not to kill anyone. It's fine to take fewer supplies, it's not a big deal. And Taesung feels overwhelmed and tells her he will think about his death. At the same time, Tak goes to Moon under the pretext of helping her clean the house and such. But in reality, he came to threaten her. Indeed, he keeps threatening her in a seemingly nice way, not to mention to anyone that he was not a resident of the building, and he leaves her very scared of him and walks away. Afterward, Moon sits with Myung and a few other women from the building. But the problem is that these women keep bothering Moon because they feel that they worked hard to gather supplies and fix up the building while she was away doing nothing. So they don't think she has the right to come back and sit and eat with them. Of course, that makes her angry, so she argues with them and leaves. She goes to Moon and keeps talking to her, calming her down and so on. She's very upset because they want to kick her out of her house for no reason. In her anger, she tells Myung that the leader Tak himself is not one of the building's residents, yet no one does anything to him. Naturally, Myung is surprised and starts asking Moon about the whole situation. She learns everything and is very shocked. In the freezer. After a while, everyone discovers the body of one of the building's residents murdered in front of the building. When they see it, they realize that outsiders definitely killed him as revenge against the residents. So to address this, a strict set of rules is decided upon so that no one can enter or exit the building. The first thing he decides to do is to go around everywhere in the building and see if there are strangers living with any of the residents or not. And of course, he reaches the apartment of the man where Mong and the kids are staying, and he goes in to search, but they are all hiding so Taj can't find them. But Taj notices that the man has canned food. Supposedly, no one should have that food except for Taj himself and Song. Tak becomes suspicious and continues searching the house until he finds Mong and the other children. He immediately takes all of them to remove them out of the building. And Tek talks with Song and they realize that his wife must have brought the food for the children. Tek asks Song to bring his wife forward. Song agrees and goes to Myung, asking her not to help any more strangers or Tak will kill them all. Myung gets upset because her husband has become so subservient to Tek like this. She tells him that Tek is not real or from the building residents, but Song doesn't believe that. It's like Tek has brainwashed him literally. Anyway, Tak and his men start going around the building. They remove any strangers and make them leave. As for the people who were hosting strangers at their place, that madman gathers them in the building's courtyard and asks them all to apologize to him and the residents loudly. So the people keep apologizing and pleading to avoid any harm. During that activity, one of the residents, specifically the man who had a mongoose scythe, couldn't take it anymore, so he throws himself off the building. At that moment, everyone is affected by what happened. But after a while, a water well explodes near them, so everyone forgets the man who died and goes to collect the water. In general, Tak sits with Kim and the rest of the men, and they inform him that the supplies are almost gone and they need to act and get more, so he decides to take action, taking Hugh and many of his men to search for food. They manage to find food in one of the destroyed buildings, but at that moment, they come under strong attack from the outsiders who keep throwing Molotovs at them. One of those bottles hits Hugh, Cam's son, and he says, "There," and he dies. But despite all that, they take all the food they can and also take a body, heading back to the building. At the same time, we see that Mayong has had enough of this, so she and Mon enter his apartment, searching until they find Tak's living body and his identity. The real one? They decide to expose this fake Tak in front of everyone. After a while, everyone in the building arrives. As soon as she finds out her son is dead, she breaks down and starts arguing with Tak because he is the reason her son died. Amidst all this, Myung arrives with the body of the real Tak and his identity, exposing the fake Tak in front of everyone. Tak, you, my friend, are afflicted with the disease of power. So he goes mad and keeps telling them he's Tak and that he won't leave the building. But no one is convinced, and they decide that the rules he set himself require that no one lives in the building except the building's residents. Now whereas everyone is attacking Tak to kill him, but he escapes them and goes to Mon like a madman, continually beating her and throwing them off from above. So she and he did that of course because she is the reason for all of this. At that time, he can't take it anymore, so he grabs his gun to kill with it. But he takes it from him and is about to kill him. However, he doesn't manage to do it because at that moment strangers arrive, literally coming to take over the building. Without introductions, a fierce battle starts between the strangers and Tak and the residents. Tak continues to kill them like a madman, and they also attack him and all the residents of the building. Then he escapes with Myung and they fall into their apartment. But the strangers come and attack them, so they are forced to flee the apartment and the entire building. As for Tak himself, he continues to fight everyone until he is seriously injured and feels that the strangers have completely taken over the building, so he retreats from the building, goes up to the apartment, and dies there. And Kosongo and Mayongko go to stay in a kind of destroyed building. Unfortunately, Songo is very injured from the last battle and is on the verge of dying. But despite that, Mayong keeps trying to treat him, and they keep talking as if saying goodbye to each other. At the end of the day, they fall asleep. The next day, when she wakes up, unfortunately, she finds him dead, so she breaks down and keeps crying. But fortunately, at the same time, a group of people come to the building she is currently in to collect some belongings. When they see her and her situation, they feel sorry for her and offer her to come live with them. So Myung and Garis and Tessin actually take her to the place where they live, which is like a house somewhat destroyed due to the earthquake, but it is still safe and they can live there. So Myung decides to continue living with these people safely, away from the building and all the crazies in it. And the film ends just like that. Goodbye.